in the quiet, heavy breathing of a world still slick with the morning dew of its first week. A profound and holy ache began to stir within the soul of the first man, a restless longing that no amount of golden sunlight or paradisical abundance could satisfy, because it was an ache for a mirror he had never seen and a voice he had never heard. This was the inaugural lesson in the human experience, that we were never designed to be self-sufficient islands of perfection, but rather woven together in a complex tapestry of need and contribution, where our very incompleteness is the bridge that leads us toward the heart of another. The Garden of Eden was a masterpiece of sensory overload. It's a place where the air tasted of jasmine and the rivers sang in liquid silver. Yet for Adam, the ruler of this pristine domain, there was a growing, silent vacuum in the center of his existence. As he walked among the magnificent creatures of the earth, naming the soaring eagles and the gentle gazelles, he witnessed a rhythm of companionship that he himself did not possess. He saw the strength of the lion met by the grace of the lioness, while he stood as a singular witness to a glory he had no one to share with. This was not a flaw in his character, but a deliberate vacuum placed there by the Creator. A divine not good spoken into a world of good to reveal that human flourishing requires the presence of a peer. We often find ourselves in modern gardens of our own making, successful, surrounded by beauty, yet haunted by a persistent, gnawing sense of isolation that no amount of achievement can drown out. This ancient story validates that your hunger for connection is not a weakness to be cured, but a sacred compass pointing you toward the fundamental truth of your design. If this resonance of the heart speaks to your own journey of seeking community, please share this episode with someone who is currently navigating their own season of solitude. Before the solution was revealed, a supernatural stillness fell over the man, a deep and transformative sleep that signaled a transition from the labor of naming to the vulnerability of being remade. In the mystery of that divine surgery, the Creator did not reach for the dust of the ground again, but instead took a part of the man's own side, signifying that the answer to his loneliness was already hidden within him, waiting to be brought forth by the hand of God. This process of extraction and formation teaches us that true connection often requires a cutting of our own ego, a willingness to let go of our total independence so that something more beautiful can be built from the pieces of our lives. As Adam lay in that holy trance, he was undergoing the first great surrender, a physical and spiritual yielding that paved the way for the greatest gift he would ever receive. We, too, must often experience a falling asleep to our own agendas and our own self-reliance before we can wake up to the miracle of the people God has placed in our lives to complete us. The transition from I to we is a sacred surgery that requires us to trust the physician even when the process feels like a loss, knowing that what is being formed in the secret place is far greater than what we are giving up. In our modern lives, the application of this side-by-side creation is the antidote to the toxic hierarchy and the competitive isolation that plagues our relationships today. When we realize that the woman was taken from the man's side, not his head to rule or his feet to be trampled, we find the blueprint for a partnership based on mutual dignity and shared mission. This is the Ezer principle, a call to be a saving strength for one another, where we stop looking at our partners and friends as competitors for resources or attention and start seeing them as the essential reinforcements sent to help us stand against the storms of life. To live this out is to intentionally move toward others with a spirit of witness, recognizing that your unique strengths are designed to cover their vulnerabilities, just as their presence fills the gaps in your own soul. We are called to be architects of belonging, creating spaces where the other is welcomed as a necessary part of the whole, reflecting the collaborative nature of the divine. If you find yourself inspired to build deeper, more intentional connections in your own life, please consider subscribing so we can continue to explore these blueprints for a life well lived together. As the first woman was brought before the man, the silence of the garden was broken by the first recorded human words, a poetic cry of recognition that signaled the end of Adam's long wait. "This, at last, is bone of my bones," he exclaimed, a phrase that in the ancient world was a covenantal oath of loyalty, a declaration that their lives were now inextricably linked by a shared essence and a common destiny. He didn't see a stranger. He saw a completion. A part of himself that had been missing and was now returned in a form that was both familiar and gloriously distinct. This moment of at last is the emotional climax of the creation story, reminding us that the deep investments we make in waiting for the right connections are never wasted in the economy of heaven. The application for us today is to cultivate a bone of my bones perspective toward those in our lives. Seeing beyond the surface differences to the shared humanity and the shared image of God that binds us together. When we view others through this lens of essential kinship, our conflicts lose their sharpness and our empathy finds its depth, allowing us to build a life rooted in the security of belonging rather than the anxiety of comparison. The practical outworking of this narrative is found in the one-flesh reality, which extends far beyond the physical union into the realm of spiritual and emotional transparency. In a world that encourages us to wear masks and hide our true selves behind curated personas, the Edenic ideal of being naked and unashamed stands as a radical call to authentic vulnerability. To apply this to your life today is to begin the brave work of letting yourself be truly known, scars, ribs, and all, by those you have been called to love. This level of intimacy is only possible when we trust that we are accepted because of our design, not because of our performance, allowing the fear of rejection to be swallowed up by the promise of covenantal faithfulness. We are invited to return to a state of emotional honesty where we no longer have to hide our needs or suppress our longings, but can bring them into the light of a supportive community. This is where the healing of our modern loneliness begins. In the decision to step out from behind the trees of our own making and stand before another in the simple, profound truth of who we are. If this message of authentic living resonates with you, please leave a comment below and share how you are practicing vulnerability in your own circles. The climax of this story is not just the union of two people, but the birth of a new way of being in the world, way defined by the departure from the old and the cleaving to the new. This leaving and cleaving is a powerful application for every area of our lives, teaching us that to embrace the fullness of our future, we must be willing to redefine our primary loyalties and prioritize the health of our most sacred bonds. It is a call to create a garden within the world, a sanctuary of relationship where the values of the kingdom take precedence over the pressures of culture. As Adam and Eve stood together at the dawn of history, they were not just a couple. They were the first community, a living laboratory of how love, sacrifice, and mutual honor can transform a landscape. We are the heirs of this original vision, and we carry the same responsibility to steward our relationships with the same reverence that Adam showed when he first beheld his bride. Every act of kindness, every moment of forgiveness, and every choice to put another's needs before our own is a reenactment of that first perfect union, a way of bringing a piece of Eden back into our broken world. The ultimate lesson of Eve's creation is that our value is derived from our origin in the heart of God, who saw that we were incomplete without one another and acted to ensure we would have companionship for the journey. This application provides a firm foundation for self-worth that is independent of worldly status or social approval, as it reminds us that we were built with intentionality and brought to our purpose by the Creator Himself. When you feel forgotten or sidelined, remember that you are a saving strength by design, an essential piece of a cosmic puzzle that is incomplete without your presence and your voice. The story of Eden is a call to move from isolation to participation, to stop hiding in the shadows of our own insecurities and step into the bright light of the relationships we were made for. It is a reminder that the same God who performed the first surgery is still at work today, closing the wounds of our past and forming new beauties from the very parts of us we thought were lost. This is the life we were meant for, a life of shared burdens, shared joys, and a shared reflection of the divine image that can only be seen when we stand together, side by side, in the grace of our original design. As we look back at the dawn of time, we see that the creation of Eve was not just a historical event, but an ongoing invitation to live in the fullness of connection and the beauty of mutual belonging. May you walk out of this moment with the confidence of one who is essentially needed and the humility of one who essentially needs others. If this reflection on the life-changing power of connection has encouraged your spirit, please consider sharing this episode with your community. We look forward to seeing you in the next episode as we continue to journey through the stories that define us.